This is Arnie Pickholtz, and you're watching the Channel 30 Opinionator News and Views. Today, we're with Brian Barefoot, who is running for a school board position in Indian River County. Brian, you're a former Indian River Shores mayor and have a long history of executive leadership in education and business. And you are running to support Superintendent David Moore's reform efforts. What changes do you anticipate the school district to be tackling in the near future?
There's a lot of opportunity for improvement, and I think it's going to be particularly challenging next couple of years because funding from the state level provides an additional layer of uncertainty. You know, revenues are down. We've got a millage vote coming up here next Tuesday, and hopefully it will pass. But if it doesn't, that leaves another substantial hole potentially in the 21-22 budget. So one of the things that we need to do is make sure that we are in good financial shape to manage the district. And without resources, human or financial, you have a problem. Probably the biggest challenge, though, forgetting the financial side of it, is the achievement gap that has become evident in the district. And it's important that that the district, in partnership with the principals and the teachers, begin to put in place initiatives that will begin to close that achievement gap. And of course, this virtual learning environment that they found themselves in for the last 4 months of this school year or the past school year, coupled with the uncertainty of what's liable to take place here in the next few weeks, you've got the risk of actually putting more pressure on that achievement gap, not less. So I would say that's number one. That's why you send kids to schools to learn. And if some students are falling behind for all sorts of different reasons, addressing that issue is got to be paramount.
You were a key figure in the Pirate Fund that helped rejuvenate the finances of the county's most prestigious private school. What did you learn from the private fund experience that you could bring to Indian River schools?
It sort of parallels just what I said. The Pirate Fund raised substantial monies, which enable the school to transition from the manner in which it was physically located and the opportunities being presented to its students to where we ended up. The private fund raised a lot of money. The money was spread out over 5 years. But maybe the most important part of getting through that period of time was hiring the right leader. And that leader, of course, was Mike Mirsky, who just retired after 11 years at the end of this past school year. But at the end of the day, it's always about leadership. All of the other things are obviously important, but we tend to take leadership for granted. But if you don't have it, you know it pretty quickly. So the combination of financial resources, finding the right leader, and then supporting his initiatives were critical. And it's sort of the same position we find ourselves in with the public school district, where we've now got a new leader. He's an innovator. It's going to take the financial resources necessary to implement a lot of the things that he's going to want to do over the next few years. So it's a sort of the same combination of the right leadership and enough financial resources to get the job done.
School opens in Indian River County on August 24th. The school board elected to have a later start date than, for example, Martin County. Going forward, how do you see your role as a potential school board member in determining what avenue to take for students and teachers? Science or political science?
Well, I don't know how you separate the two in this environment. Obviously, there's a lot of politics involved now, unfortunately, and we find that schools and the kids and the teachers in particular are caught in the middle between the politicians who have a different view of whether schools should open or not should open and under what sets of conditions. The one thing I do know, the school board should be there to ask questions, but not to impose their political point of view on whatever decisions are made by the district. Our job is to ask questions, make sure that whatever path Dr. Moore and his team choose to follow, that we provide the kind of support and probably be prepared to take the heat from those that would do it differently. That sort of goes with the territory. Doesn't bother me. I've been criticized before, but you know for sure that there's going to be a group or more that isn't going to like whatever decisions are made, and we're just going to have to live with it.
Superintendent Moore is promising to be a game changer for the school district. As an executive for schools and businesses in your career, what unique skills do you offer him?
The first thing you'll have to learn how to do when you're no longer the CEO is do a lot of listening. And sometimes that's difficult. Everybody's got an opinion on everything, particularly in the environment that we find ourselves in. But, I think I've become a good listener. I've learned when I was president of Babson College, and it's a very different environment in educational enterprises of all kinds than the command and control environment of the corporate world. If you're the boss, the CEO, or even a department manager, you're in charge and everybody knows it. When you're trying to provide leadership to the school district, you've got so many different constituencies. You've got parents, you've got students, you've got teachers, you've got the custodians, the staff, you've got the community. We can go on. You got the politicians. You could go on and on. Being able to manage decision making in a process-oriented fashion where all of those constituents have an opportunity to voice their concerns. But at the same time, at the end of the day, a decision has to be made. And in the environment we're in now, I'm not sure you're going to get a strong consensus, but you do have to let all these constituents be heard. And I've learned that, and I think to the extent possible, I can offer that guidance and support to Dr. Moore as he tries to navigate through all these uncertain times.
What are the big school district issues, and how do you see your role in tackling them?
I would say there's two big issues, and then there's a subset of one of the issues. I think one of the biggest issues that has got to be resolved is this desegregation order that the school district has been under for 52 years now. I have to tell you that it wasn't until maybe 2 years ago that I was even aware that the district was under a deseg order. And most of the people that I know, maybe all of them, had no idea. And it's only been in the last, several months that the community, at least that part of the community that I've interacted with over the last many years I've been in the area, became aware of it. But think about it. I mean, that's embarrassing. In this day and age, to be under a 52-year-old desegregation order because you can't get together with the litigant, in this case, the NAACP, and to together come up with objectives and outcomes and the tactics necessary to achieve those outcomes and the measurement standards to know that you're making progress or not so you can adjust midstream. I mean, it's unacceptable. And so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that the process, and I go back to process again, is a good one. It can't be a top-down. You cannot have the district staff, the superintendent, come in and impose upon a group of folks a series of outcomes without having them participate in determining what those outcomes ought to be. And the worst case of all is where we find ourselves, where a judge in Miami, no less, has determined what it is going to be required in order to get relief from this deseg order. So this is something that I don't know how long it's going to take to actually get out from under the court, but progress has got to be made. And I think progress is starting to be made, but I would like to see it accelerated. And I still think there's some things missing in terms of the process. And the other big thing is allocation of resources. If we assume that you never have enough money, and having been around educational institutions for, in the aggregate, over 40 years, You give an educator money and they'll find a way to spend it. And what is relevant today may not be relevant tomorrow. The problem is that educational institutions tend to start something and they become legacies. And it's hard to get rid of them once you start them, even though they may not no longer be relevant. So I would hope that I can help identify and support the superintendent and his staff in trying to make sure that the financial resources that the district does have available are put to work in some sort of a priority fashion. And I suggest they will be. And the things that we must have are important. The things that's nice to have, forget it. At least put them on the back burner until better times. But I think how the money is spent, giving the taxpayers a return on their investment, if you think of it in investment terms, $314 million is a lot of money. Some would tell you it's not nearly enough, but I would hope that we can allocate those dollars, support the district and the superintendent and his team in the most efficient and productive manner so that the outcomes, the students, and obviously the taxpayers feel good about the kind of return on their investment that's being provided to the children of Indian River County.
Thank you, Brian Barefoot, and thank you for watching Channel 30 Opinionator News and Views. I'm Arnie Pickholtz, and we'll see you next time.